Hey, good morning. Hey, you guys. So here we are, Sunday, the 27th, 27th of September. Hello, hello. Um, Sometimes, uh, I've kind of got myself into this doing something every morning, and I want you to know that it's not always. I don't spend hours thinking about what I'm going to say. Actually, I hardly think about it at all. Often I'll sit down. Today I've been sitting here for a while, and just waiting for something to come. And and what came up was, well, I'll tell it this way. You know, a friend of mine, a friend of mine who's been sober maybe 3 or 4 months, I think, really seemed to be doing well. Smart fella, you know, went out yesterday. And for us, when that happens, I mean, it's it's hard to say what can happen, you know, where he could end up, and but what happened? I can tell you what happened. I haven't even spoken to him, and I can tell you what happened. Somewhere in the mind, he took something too seriously. Self-pity, you know, something somebody said, something that happened to him, and maybe anger came up or fear came up, right? And he took it really seriously. He got on that train, and and the train for many of us leads us into some deep, you know, we get caught up in fear, we get caught up in anger and guilt, and you know, self-pity. Doesn't everybody recognize how good I'm doing? You know, get caught up in thinking about what other people are thinking, as if we have any idea. Or so, uh, my tip, I guess, for the day is use anger or use fear uh, to to as a stepping stone to awakening. So the the basics are, if you know at one level that you're not your thoughts. So just, you know, that's a foundation. Okay, I'm not my thoughts. So, you know, the thinking mind is making up a story about somebody, the neighbor who cut down your tree or whatever, you know, with some anger, you know, and, and it just, and we get on the you know, the whole story about that neighbor and all neighbors and living in the city, and I mean, it could just go crazy, right? Because it's just how the mind works. But to see it and recognize that it just makes up stories, and we get caught in them, and sometimes we get caught in them, and an emotion comes up, and it's like, oh, you know. So use anger. Anger is not bad. Anger is actually a way to show us that we're alive, and we can use it as a stepping stone. We can use it as a way to see ourselves. Fear, the same thing. When fear comes up, you know, we can use it to see ourselves. But do that. Don't take it too seriously, and just do it. Say, okay, look at that. I have fear wherever it happens to be showing, sometimes in the body, because it does that. Just, oh, okay. As soon as we bring consciousness to the anger, consciousness to the fear, and the consciousness is an awareness, like, oh, look at that. You know, I'm, you know, I'm caught in it. Sometimes we might be quite far down the road before we get it, you know, into the, I call it the fear train, or desire train, like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. I got to make that happen. And then, we're going to be millionaires. you know, no matter where you are in the deal, just awaken to that moment. Say, okay, I see it. All right, there we are. And as soon as we see it, we're there. We're here. We're awake. We're aware as we see it. So that's the key. So nothing, no judgment on anger. I mean, it's been a long time since, I used to have it. Oh, so bad. I was so hooked. You made me angry. How, for me, very immature. I feel a little like, but yes, that's where I was. And now, many of us that are on this call, I think, and can see it. Oh gosh, there's anger. Not to be ashamed of it, not to be, in denial of it, not to be hiding it. Just, oh, okay, I have anger. And boom, use it to bring ourselves into the moment. Because in the moment is where the action is, so one more time, when something comes up and we have a reaction, oh, I'm feeling anger, it can be in traffic. It really can. It happened to be yesterday. I was turning off just over close to here off a side street, and the guy in front of me had tons of room, just tons of room to make the turn. And he was like, almost stopped in the intersection, and it came up. It's like, and I saw it in the moment. I saw it. It's like, oh, look at that. You're angry, and so I recognize that those thoughts are not me. They're just old patterns. They're old beliefs. They're old, and I used it in that moment to be present in that moment. Like it brought me, boom, back into that second. So use anger, use fear, use all of the, the stuff that, like guilt and shame and self-pity, to bring us into the moment. When we become aware of it, we go, oh, look at that. Here I am. And as soon as we bring awareness into it, it melts. As soon as we don't engage with it and get on the train, but if we do, if we get on the anger train and I'll show them, I mean, I've done all that, spent the whole day angry. But it doesn't matter how far down the road we go with it, we can get off at any time. We can, and it's through awareness, and also with prayer. We can say, oh, God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done. God, take away my fear. Show me what you have me to be. In each moment we can bring that concept into the moment and awaken there. Boom, you're awake. It's just like that. And then, we know we're not our thoughts. So the more we do that, the more we become part of this moment, the more we live in this moment, the more we're trusting our intuition. How many times we made decisions based out of fear? So the less time we spend in fear, the less likely we are to make foolish decisions in fear. So same with anger. And anger is, I think, and fear are like cousins, maybe even brother and sister. They're the brother and sister that hell are sleeping together. I mean, it's just, they're that tight. Anger and fear are often that tight. They really are. So, yeah, that's it. Be here now. Practice it. Make it like, what could be more important than being here now? And watching as things come up. To recognize that if we use anger, if we use fear, if we use guilt and shame to be aware, then it's it's a proper use of that, isn't it? It's beautiful. It's part of the human psyche. So remember, we're not our thoughts. Okay, I'm going to read. What day is it? I think it's the 27th. And you just never know what he's going to say. This little book, the thought for the day. Before I start that, I want to mention that starting pretty soon, we're going to start this book. And it's not going to be and replace this, but we're going to do it over, I think we're starting on the 6th of October, 11 o'clock. We're going to read. It's going to be on Zoom. You don't have to come on Zoom. It'll be on Zoom. And Zoom will be restreamed on Facebook Live. But we're going to read it together. It's called the Bhagavad Gita. And it's just a beautiful book. You know, it's all a metaphor, but it's a beautiful metaphor of awakening. So I'm not an expert in the Bhagavad Gita. That's a fact. I'm not an expert in anything. I'm just, I'm like you. And all of us were, here kind of stumbling our way home in each day. So the Bhagavad Gita can bring us, I think, home. We can come home without leaving. We can be home here now. So the truth is, this is more out of intuition than me saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see this part." I know I've listened to this on Audible probably 30 times, and it's a very high vibration book, and so I can't wait to share it with many of you. That's Stephen Mitchell's copy, our translation of the Bhagavad Gita, starting on the 6th of October. You can get a copy at Chapters. You can order it on Amazon, and let's read it together. Okay, and if you miss it because you're working or what have you, it'll be there for you to go over later in the day. The Bhagavad Gita will be on YouTube. It'll be on Facebook Live and all of that. Okay, that's it. I have no idea. I'm trying to keep my expectations. I watch my expectations. Expectations are another thing that, if we see an expectation, we can just be there now. Oh, look at that. I'm having an expectation. Let it go. And then everything is as it needs to be in this moment. Right? Everything is exactly where it needs to be. Nothing is missing. Nothing is missing. Life is beautiful. It doesn't matter what our circumstances are. Who's here, who isn't here. Be here now. We are perfect. Okay. What did I say it was 27th? Pretty sure. Yes. Okay, 27th, thought for the day. This is from this little book called the 24-Hour Day Book. Yes. Hey, Toby. Oh, you've got to go back and listen to all this. I did it for you, hon. I love that you're here. And you've got to come and get your glasses. You don't have to do anything, but they are here. Okay. Thought for the day, continuing the consideration of the term spiritual experience. Okay, so he's been talking about spiritual experience a couple of days in a row here. Hi, love. What often takes place in a few months could seldom have accomplished by years of self-discipline. Okay, what often takes place in a few months could seldom have been accomplished by years of self-discipline. With few exceptions. Okay, honey. Hi, Shane. With few exceptions, our members, and he's talking about the 12-step world. This was written in 1954, so it wasn't, there wasn't a big 12-step world at that time. There wasn't, there's millions and millions of people practicing the 12 steps now in many, many, many different programs. But back then there was a very few, Okay. With few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource, which they presently identify as their own conception of a power greater than themselves. God in this moment, our own conception. Yes. Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves, the essence of spiritual experience. And most of us think this awareness, consciousness, awareness, yes, of a power greater than ourselves, the essence of spiritual experience. Some of us call it God consciousness. Yes, beautiful. In any case, willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials for recovery. And recovery, is from our thinking. The drinking and using was how we medicated ourselves, because our thinking, because we were so caught up in our selfish ways of expecting and anger and fear that we were locked into that, and we didn't realize that our thoughts were not us. So recovery is from our way of thinking. And it says in step 1 that our lives were unmanageable. And it talks again about depth, just before the 3rd step prayer, where it says selfishness and self-centeredness, that's the root of our troubles, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking. We step on the toes of our fellows. So it's really clear what the problem is. It's my thinking. And so we become aware of it, and eventually we're like, it loses its power. It doesn't, beat us like an old dog, like it had for years. Yeah. Okay, meditation for the day. God's power, it says, in our life increases as our ability to understand His grace increases. Yes. God's power in our life increases as our ability to understand His grace increases. The power of God's grace is only limited by the understanding and will of each individual. God's miracle working power is only limited in each individual soul by the lack of spiritual vision in that soul. So, okay, God respects free will, the right of each person to accept or reject His miracle working power. Only the sincere desire of the soul gives Him the opportunity to bestow it. So, to me, this whole process is very simple. There's a lot of story around awakening and how this happens, but it's very simple. Be here now. God is in this moment. Ask, pray, pray not only for yourself but for others, and that prayer brings us closer in the moment. We're like, what is it? And it's not something separate from us. That's the key. We've been brought up for so long thinking that God was something separate, some objective, some statue, some idea that's separate. It's, I love what Bill says in We Agnostics. God either is or He isn't. Either He's everything or He's nothing. And what is your choice to be? It's beautiful because we're in it. This is it. In every way, we're surrounded. We are it. We are it. We're one with it. We're not equal to God. We are one with God. God doesn't separate. So somehow we have been given the opportunity to feel separate, and which is beautiful. I'm not going to go into the theology of all that because I'm not a theologian, just a practitioner. A minute. It's beautiful. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may not limit God's power by my lack of vision. I pray that I may keep my mind open today to His influence. Beautiful. So that's, I'm enjoying reading this book. Sometimes I find that I edited a bit because it was written in 1954, and it's a little bit, sometimes it's almost, says stuff that's like, holy shit, almost racist, and certainly more towards the man, patriarchal. But I edited a bit, and we poked through it. I love it. It was it's really helped a lot of people over the years to find their connection and to stay close. Here in the back is the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay, guys. Monday night we have our meditation. Love you to 7:30. You can join us online on Zoom. You can join us. You can come to the house and be here with us here Monday evenings. A small group. You're welcome. And Facebook Live. Yeah. So, and YouTube Live. Okay. Love you guys. Talk soon.